So relatively recently, Netflix dropped a new show called Ratched, a prequel origin story of Nurse Ratched from the critically acclaimed film One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and immediately I was irritated that the show even existed. Ultimately, I felt it missed the whole point of the character, and here's why. Villains serve a purpose in stories, and the primary purpose is to be an obstacle for our heroes. But within that purpose, they can represent different kinds of obstacles. Sometimes the villain is a symbol of an ideology gone too far, and sometimes they're just rage incarnate. But sometimes they fall into a third category, a category in which I would put Alonzo Harris, Dolores Umbridge, and you guessed it, Nurse Ratched. You see, these three characters represent the corruption within the system. Alonzo Harris isn't just an evil man with selfish motives. He is that, but it's not all he is. He also acts as an avatar for the systemic evil in the police force. We learn what we need to about the corruption and violence inherent in the system via one person. We have to assume there's 1,000 Alonzos out there, but this Alonzo is our gateway into this world. This systemic problem. And the exact same can be said for Dolores Umbridge of Harry Potter. Once again, she's a vile person, but she speaks with the authority and impunity given to her by the very Ministry of Magic. In her own words,
I'm sorry, dear, but to question my practices is to question the Ministry, and by extension, the Minister himself.
So the Potter gang can't just play some chin music for Mrs. Umbridge because that would bring down the power of the entire Ministry upon them. They have to beat her while working around a bigger unstoppable beast. And that's why I think the Ratched show is missing the point. To make a show that dwells on why the good nurse is specifically evil makes her feel as though she's an anomaly in an otherwise good healthcare system, rather than an avatar of what is wrong in the healthcare system, which is what the real Nurse Ratched was, expertly played by Louise Fletcher. You see, she's not Annie Wilkes, just some crazy baby murderer lady who, somehow slipped through the cracks. So go ahead and make all the Castle Rock you want. The horrifying prospect of being put into the care of someone like Ratched by the very system she represents isn't that you might get unlucky and have an evil nurse, but that the rot that the system isn't smoking out is so prolific that you're likely to end up in her clutches. People like her in a corrupt system are common. These villains don't represent a person, they represent an idea. The idea that fascism and unilateral power are hotbeds for corruption and vile practices that not only allow for, but empower the exact wrong people for the job. People who in each case were theoretically hired to help those of us who are most in need, which makes the horror of that betrayal sting so much worse. So although I understand that sexy villain origin stories are all the rage right now, I really wish more discernment was used to decide who to do them for, because they might end up ruining the potency of a character by changing what made them emotionally resonant in the first place. Poor Nurse Ratched. Thanks for watching, and until next time. So I was rewatching True Detective Season 1 with my roommates, and I saw something familiar that I'd never given much thought about before, and it had to do with the relationship between Rust Cohle and the mystery villain, best known as the Yellow King. These two men seem connected in a way that's underrepresented when given options for types of villain-hero duos, but I have seen this kind of connection before. You probably